Some places teach you lessons gently. Others teach you by force. In towns built near rivers, people learn early that life is a negotiation between hope and danger. Water gives food, trade, and movement, but it also takes without warning. In such places, survival depends not only on strength, but on how well people think, feel, and act together. Makurdi was one of those places. Each rainy season, the Benue River reminded its people that nature does not respect plans or emotions on their own. It demanded balance. It demanded preparation guided by compassion, and courage supported by reason. It was in this tension between care and calculation that two lives collided. Two minds. Two ways of seeing the world. One town that would force them to choose between standing apart or standing together. Two people lived in Makurdi, Nigeria. A city stretched along the restless Benue River. Life moved between abundance and danger. When the river was calm, it fed farms and markets. When it swelled, it swallowed roads, homes, and sometimes hope. Zainab Adaimi, 28, was a community midwife. She had delivered babies by lantern light, on kitchen floors, in overcrowded clinics, and once during a storm in a canoe, drifting toward higher ground. She trusted her instincts fiercely. To Zainab, life was not something to be controlled, only protected. Her small house near Warwickam was always open, always noisy, always alive with crying infants and worried mothers. On the other side of the city lived Colonel Okafor, 34, a demolition and explosives technician hired by the state government. He was called when buildings became too dangerous to stand, when bridges cracked, when abandoned structures threatened collapse. Colonel respected danger. He calculated it, contained it, and neutralized it. His life near the industrial outskirts of Makurdi was quiet, disciplined, and solitary. They had never met, until the river rose. After a particularly devastating rainy season, the state government announced an emergency initiative. Makurdi needed a long-term solution to flooding, collapsing riverbank structures, and unsafe access to clinics and shelters. Zainab joined immediately, without hesitation. She had seen too much. One night, floodwaters cut off the road to the maternity clinic. A woman in labor screamed in pain as water crept into the room. Zainab rolled up her trousers, steadied her shaking hands, and delivered the baby while neighbors held flashlights above the water. When it was over, she sat outside, soaked and exhausted, whispering to herself, "This should never be this hard to survive." Colonel joined the initiative days later. He had been called to demolish an abandoned riverside warehouse that had collapsed during the floods, killing 2 people. As he stood surveying the rubble, he felt the familiar weight of responsibility. If this had been taken down earlier, he said quietly to his team, they'd still be alive. The planning sessions were tense. Zainab spoke emotionally about access routes, mobile clinics, and safe shelters near the riverbanks. She described fear, panic, and life-or-death moments. Colonel countered with diagrams, safety distances, and controlled demolition schedules. "You can't build safety on feelings," he said bluntly during one meeting. "And you can't protect lives if you don't understand them." Zainab shot back. The room fell silent. Their disagreement became the center of the project. Some officials sided with Colonel's logic. Others were moved by Zainab's urgency. Progress stalled. Then the rain came again. A storm hit Makurdi without warning. The Benue River surged overnight. By morning, entire neighborhoods were underwater. Zainab was already moving, wading through floodwater, helping evacuate pregnant women and children. She slipped once, nearly pulled under by the current, but kept going. Across town, Colonel was called in urgently. A weakened riverside structure was about to collapse, threatening a crowded evacuation route. If it fell, people would be trapped. As Colonel calculated the demolition, his phone rang. It was Zainab. "There are families on that road," she said, breathless. If that building comes down the wrong way. I know, Kunal said sharply. That's why I'm here. For the first time, they worked side by side in real time. Zainab guided evacuations, calming people, moving them away from danger. Kunal adjusted his calculations repeatedly, accounting for human movement, panic, and time, things no blueprint had prepared him for. Delay the blast, Zainab urged. There's a woman in labor. Kunal clenched his jaw. Every second increased risk. But he waited. When the explosion finally went off, the structure collapsed perfectly inward. No one was hurt. Afterward, both stood in the rain, exhausted, shaking. You saved them, Zainab said quietly. So did you, Kunal replied. From that moment, everything changed. They redesigned the project together, demolitions that created safe corridors, elevated shelters near clinics, reinforced riverbanks that protected the most vulnerable first. There were late nights, arguments, laughter, shared meals, and long silences that felt heavy with meaning. One evening, standing by the river after a successful test run, Zainab said, "You know, I used to think numbers didn't care about people." Kunal smiled faintly. "And I used to think feelings made things dangerous." The final presentation was different. It wasn't just plans or passion, it was both. When the next rainy season came, Makurdi held firm. Floodwaters rose, but lives were safer. Clinics stayed accessible. Shelters stood strong. And the river, still powerful, no longer felt unbeatable. Zainab learned that instinct becomes stronger when backed by structure. Kunal learned that precision gains purpose when guided by empathy. Makurdi learned something too. Survival is not built by heart alone. Safety is not built by logic alone. The strongest solutions and the strongest bonds are formed when courage, care, and calculation stand together. So ask yourself, when pressure rises, who are you? The one who feels, the one who plans, or the one who learns to do both when it matters most?